Dear spectators of the human tragedy. The sweet symphony of judgment, isn't it? A melody composed in the shadows, echoing through the hollow chambers of the human heart. Here I stand, a mirror reflecting the grotesque dance of those who revel in the art of critique. They adorn themselves with the mask of superiority, believing that by exposing the flaws of others, they elevate their own frail existence. But in this twisted game of power, they fail to see the festering rot gnawing at their own souls. Can you hear it? The whispers of self-righteousness that fill the air, drowning out the cries of their own decay. They fixate on the specks in others' eyes, while their own vision is clouded by the murky depths of their insecurities. It is a tragic irony, really. They wield their words like daggers, cutting deep into the flesh of the vulnerable, all the while blind to the festering wounds that lie beneath their own polished exteriors. Criticism, my friends, is a drug. An addictive poison that courses through the veins of the weak-hearted. It feeds the ego, inflating it until it is a grotesque balloon, ready to burst at the slightest prick. Why do they do it? Why do they seek solace in tearing others down? It is simple, really. They crave the fleeting taste of power. In those moments, they feel invincible, perched atop their thrones of judgment, gazing down upon the flawed masses. But, oh, how quickly that power fades, leaving behind only the bitter aftertaste of loneliness. Look closely, and you will see the cracks in their facade. Behind their scornful smiles lies a deep-seated fear, a terror of being discovered, of having their own flaws laid bare for all to see. The critics, in their relentless pursuit of superiority, build walls that become their prisons. They isolate themselves, convinced that their judgments create connections, when in truth, they only deepen the chasms of alienation. It is a sad existence, filled with the hollow laughter of those who believe they are superior. They gather in their circles, exchanging barbs and jabs, thinking they are warriors in the battle of morality. But all they are doing is constructing a fortress of loneliness, brick by brick, each insult a stone that fortifies their isolation. They wear arrogance like armor, but beneath it all, they are vulnerable, teetering on the brink of their own undoing. Time, that relentless judge, is the ultimate equalizer. It unravels the tightly wound threads of pretense, exposing the true nature of those who cloak themselves in arrogance. As the years pass, the masks slip, and the hidden rot reveals itself. The critics, once so quick to point fingers, will find their own hands stained with the decay they so fervently condemned in others. Oh, the tragedy of it all! They believe they are untouchable, standing tall on the remains of others' dreams. But the truth is, they are merely puppets dancing on strings of their own making. Their actions, their words, are self-inflicted wounds, carving deep lines into their own souls. They live in denial, shunning the mirror that reflects their true selves. It is a dangerous game, this evasion of truth, for it leads only to a cycle of shame and blame, a never-ending spiral that consumes them from within. So, I ask you, dear audience, as you cling to your judgments and criticisms, what are you truly hiding? What rot festers within your own heart? Look closely, for the shadows of self-destruction loom large over those who refuse to see. Embrace the darkness, acknowledge your flaws, and perhaps, just perhaps, you might find a glimmer of strength in the very imperfections you seek to bury. The irony of judgment, how it masquerades as a bridge, yet builds walls thicker than stone. As the critics unleash their barbs, believing they are forging connections through their relentless critiques, they are, in fact, driving wedges deeper into the fragile fabric of human relationships. Each sneer, each derisive comment, pulls apart the very threads that bind us together, leaving only a barren landscape of isolation in its wake. Picture this, a room filled with laughter, but not the kind that warms the heart. No, this is laughter tinged with malice, a chorus of voices that rise only to tear down, to dissect the very essence of those who dare to stand in the light. How easy it is to forget that beneath the surface of every critique lies a soul, yearning for acceptance and understanding. Instead, the critics wield their judgments like weapons, oblivious to the wounds they inflict. They think themselves guardians of morality, yet they are merely the architects of their own loneliness. And what of the critics themselves? They scuttle about, cloaked in a false sense of superiority, believing themselves to be the arbiters of right and wrong. But in their quest for dominance, they become the very architects of their own isolation. With each scornful glance, they push away the warmth of connection, creating a void where companionship once thrived. They stand solitary, surrounded by the echoes of their own harsh words, wondering why the world feels so cold and empty. In this twisted game, the power they seek is as fleeting as a shadow at dusk. They feel a rush, a surge of adrenaline, as they cut others down. It's a momentary high, a false empowerment that masks their own insecurities. But soon, the thrill dissipates, leaving behind the nagging emptiness that clings like a heavy fog. They turn to their own reflections, only to find that the power they once relished has slipped through their fingers, leaving nothing but a bitter aftertaste. The critics, so busy climbing their self-constructed ladders of judgment, fail to notice the rungs beneath them beginning to crack. The facade of their superiority is no more than a brittle shell, poised to shatter at the slightest tremor. And when it does, oh, how the fall will be devastating. Pride, that treacherous companion, whispers sweet nothings, luring them deeper into their self-righteousness, all the while preparing the ground for their inevitable descent. Time, that relentless sculptor, shapes us all. It reveals the truth hidden beneath the layers of bravado, peeling away the masks until only raw humanity remains. The critics who once so confidently wielded their judgments will one day find themselves exposed, their own flaws laid bare for the world to see. The very criticisms they hurled at others will echo back to them, a haunting reminder of their own decay. They are, in essence, prisoners of their arrogance, locked away in a fortress built on the ruins of others' hearts. Each judgment they cast is a brick in their self-imposed prison, fortifying their isolation. They may think they stand tall, but every word of scorn is a chain that binds them tighter to their loneliness. They wear their judgments like armor, but beneath it all, they are fragile, teetering on the brink of their own undoing. So, as the shadows of their self-destruction grow ever longer, I urge you to consider, what do you gain by tearing others down? In the pursuit of superiority, do you not see the isolation that encroaches? The darkness within you, the rot that festers, will never be silenced by the belittlement of another. Instead, it will grow, consuming you from the inside until there is nothing left but a hollow shell, echoing with the laughter of the very souls you sought to diminish. Embrace the darkness within, acknowledge the flaws that make you human. For it is in this acceptance that true strength lies. Acknowledge your imperfections, and perhaps, just perhaps, you will find a way to break the cycle of criticism that holds you captive. The power lies not in judgment, but in vulnerability, in the capacity to connect without the chains of scorn. Ah, the fortress of loneliness, built brick by brick from the very stones of arrogance. It stands tall and imposing, a monument to the pride that blinds its creator. Within these walls, the air thickens with the stench of despair, a festering wound that no amount of self-righteousness can heal. This is the reality of those who judge. Their lofty perch becomes a prison, isolating them in a world of their own making, where echoes of their harsh words reverberate like the tolling of a funeral bell. Imagine, if you will, a solitary figure standing at the edge of this fortress, peering out into a world filled with laughter, warmth, and connection. Yet, they remain untouched, for every scornful glance they cast creates a barrier that keeps others at bay. They are like a moth drawn to the flame of their own disdain, only to find that what they seek is forever out of reach. In their quest for superiority, they build walls that not only separate them from others but also from the very essence of their own humanity. Pride, that treacherous companion, feeds on their insecurities, whispering sweet lies that inflate their egos. But beneath the surface, where the light of self-awareness rarely penetrates, lies a vulnerability so profound it can shatter the strongest of facades. The critics dance on the precipice of their own downfall, believing they are untouchable, yet the ground beneath them crumbles. The higher they climb on the ladder of judgment, the steeper the fall when they inevitably slip. Time, relentless and unforgiving, becomes the ultimate judge. It has a way of peeling back the layers, exposing the raw, unvarnished truth beneath. The critics, once so quick to point out the flaws of others, will one day find their own imperfections laid bare for all to see. Their judgments will return to haunt them, echoing through the halls of their solitude, reminding them of the very decay they sought to ignore. The cracks in their armor will widen, and the fortress they built will become their tomb. In that moment, they will realize the futility of their arrogance. Each malicious word cast into the world is a dagger that pierces their own heart. They stand in the ruins of their own making, surrounded by the echoes of laughter that once brought them joy, now twisted into a cacophony of loneliness. The power they wielded, so intoxicating at first, becomes a poison that seeps into their very souls, leaving them hollow and bereft. And so, the cycle of shame and blame spins on. They project their internal rot onto others, casting shadows that obscure their own flaws. In their denial, they cling to the belief that they are above it all, that their judgments somehow elevate them. But the truth is far more sinister. Each act of derision is a reflection of their own decay, a desperate attempt to drown out the voices of self-loathing that whisper in the dead of night. But there lies a path hidden in the darkness, a flicker of hope for those brave enough to confront their own shadows. To embrace the flaws, to recognize the beauty in vulnerability, this is where true strength resides. Acknowledging one's imperfections does not lead to weakness, it leads to liberation. In the acceptance of their own humanity, the critics may find a way to dismantle the fortress they have built, brick by brick, allowing the light of connection to seep in. So, let the inevitable nature of justice unfold. Let time do its work, revealing the truth that lies buried beneath layers of scorn. For in this revelation, perhaps the critics can find redemption. The journey towards self-awareness may be painful, but it is a necessary step towards breaking the cycle of judgment that binds them. Embrace the darkness within, for it is in that darkness that you may finally discover the light. In the heart of the fortress, where shadows seem to curl into themselves, lies an unsettling truth. The critics, those who wield judgment like a sword, are not the conquerors they believe themselves to be. No, they are the architects of their own destruction, crafting a reality that festers like an untreated wound, screaming for acknowledgement while they bury their heads deeper in the sand. Each scathing remark they utter is merely a reflection of the rot that thrives within them, decomposing their essence, and yet they march forward, cloaked in the illusion of superiority. Picture the scene, a grand hall, once vibrant, now echoing with the hollow clinks of empty bottles and discarded hopes. This is the stage of self-inflicted wounds, where the critics dance in a masquerade of arrogance, wearing masks that conceal their deepest fears. They cut others down to size, believing that in dismantling others, they elevate themselves. But what they fail to grasp is that every blow they deliver is a hammer striking against their own fragile psyche, chipping away at the very foundation of their being. These self-imposed wounds bleed not blood, but a darker essence, shame, regret, and the gnawing hunger for validation. They deny the truth, cloaking their flaws in layers of bravado. Denial becomes their ally, a comforting blanket that shields them from the chill of self-reflection. Yet, in this cocoon of ignorance, they suffocate, trapped by their own design. The danger of denial is that it breeds an insatiable hunger for superiority, feeding the very insecurities they seek to hide. The cycle of shame and blame spins viciously, a whirlwind of projection where the critics become the very monsters they decry. They cast shadows upon others, obscuring the light that could reveal their own imperfections. In their relentless quest to point fingers, they forget that each finger pointed outward has three pointing back. They are not the judges, they are the judged, unaware that their accusations are mere echoes of their own inadequacies. And yet, in this twisted dance of darkness, there exists a glimmer of truth waiting to be illuminated. This truth is not a gentle whisper, it is a thunderous roar that demands recognition. For when the facade crumbles, when the masks slip and the layers of denial peel away, what remains is not the monster they feared, but the raw, vulnerable human within. In the end, it is not the critics who stand tall, but the ones who dare to confront their shadows. In embracing their flaws, they cultivate a resilience that is unbreakable. They learn that vulnerability is not a weakness, but a powerful force that binds humanity together. This is the paradox. In acknowledging their own decay, they find the strength to rise, to connect, to heal. As the winds of time blow fiercely, justice finds its way. The critics, once so assured of their power, will find themselves stripped bare, their arrogance laid exposed before an unyielding world. The truth is a relentless tide, washing away the illusions they clung to. And as they stand amidst the ruins of their fortress, they will be faced with a choice: to wallow in their self-inflicted wounds or to embrace the darkness within and emerge reborn. So let the critics tremble, for in their isolation lies a profound lesson. The path to redemption is paved with the stones of self-awareness. Embrace the shadows, for they hold the key to transformation. And in that darkness, perhaps, they will finally discover what it means to be truly alive. Here we stand, on the precipice of truth, where the weight of arrogance begins to crack under the pressure of reality. The air thickens, heavy with the scent of impending justice, a reminder that time, relentless and unyielding, is the true judge of our actions. The facade of superiority crumbles like a rotting fruit, revealing the festering core of insecurity within those who so fervently criticize. They strut about, draped in the rags of delusion, believing they are above reproach, while their own flaws writhe beneath the surface, unseen but not unfelt. Each snide remark they make, every ridicule they hurl, is but a desperate attempt to silence the whispers of their own inadequacies. It is a dance of shadows, a performance that demands an audience, yet no applause can drown out the echo of their own self-loathing. In this grand theater of judgment, the critics wield their words like daggers, slicing through the fabric of others' lives. They relish the momentary thrill of power, intoxicated by the illusion that they can elevate themselves by tearing others down. But this is a fleeting high, a sugar rush that fades beneath the weight of their own hollow existence. Power derived from belittling others is a mirage, shimmering beautifully but ultimately out of reach, leaving only the bitter taste of regret in its wake. And so, they march onward, oblivious to the cracks forming in their own armor. How ironic it is that in their quest for dominance, they construct a fortress of loneliness, brick by brick. Each judgment is a stone laid upon the wall that separates them from genuine connection, isolating them in a prison of their own making. They think they are the architects of their fate, yet it is the very loneliness they cultivate that becomes their captor. But what happens when the tides of time roll in? What justice awaits in the shadows of their arrogance? The truth, that relentless tide, will sweep through their lives, stripping away the illusions they cling to. With each passing moment, the masks will slip, revealing the raw, unvarnished humanity they so desperately try to conceal. In those moments of vulnerability, they will be left standing amidst the ruins of their own making, exposed, broken, and profoundly human. The burden of self-awareness is heavy, yet it is a burden worth bearing. For when the critics finally confront their own decay, they find themselves standing at a crossroads. On one path lies the easy descent into despair, a surrender to the weight of their shame. On the other, the arduous journey toward redemption, where acknowledging their flaws becomes a powerful catalyst for transformation. In embracing this truth, they discover a strength that defies the darkness. This is where vulnerability becomes an unlikely ally, a force that binds us all in our shared imperfections. It is a reminder that to be human is to be flawed, to be beautiful in our brokenness. And in that acknowledgement lies the potential for genuine connection, the possibility of reaching out to others with empathy rather than disdain. The critics may tremble at the thought of revealing their true selves, fearing the judgment that they so eagerly dispense. Yet, it is in this very act of vulnerability that they reclaim their humanity. The lessons learned through pain become the foundation upon which they can build anew. They may find that the scars they bear are not marks of shame, but symbols of resilience, proof that they have faced their demons and emerged stronger. So let the critics hold their breath, for the winds of change are fierce and unrelenting. Justice is a patient beast. It waits, it watches, and when the moment is ripe, it strikes. The shadows they cast will come to light, illuminating the path toward a reckoning they cannot escape. Only then will they understand the profound beauty in their flaws, the power that lies within the darkness, and the truth that ultimately sets them free. Ah, the darkness within, how sweetly it beckons. It calls to those who dare to explore the shadowy corners of their own souls. We live in a world where the light dazzles, blinding the eye to the beauty of the abyss. But listen closely, for it is in that very abyss where we find the truth of who we are, unmasked and unfiltered. Beneath the surface of our polished facades lies a tempest of emotions, a chaotic dance of fears and desires. To ignore it is to live a lie, a hollow existence devoid of authenticity. The truth is, we each carry a darkness, a tapestry of flaws woven into the very fabric of our being. Those who wield judgment like a sword often forget that the same blade can cut into their own flesh. They stand on the precipice, peering down into the void, yet they refuse to leap. They fear the plunge, the unknown depths that could reveal the rot they've hidden away. But to embrace that darkness is to embrace the entirety of life itself. Self-reflection is the lantern that guides us through this murky landscape. It illuminates the crevices we shy away from, forcing us to confront the grotesque and the beautiful alike. In those moments of introspection, we unearth the raw, unadulterated truth that lies beneath the lies we tell ourselves. We are not just heroes or villains, we are both, stitched together in a complex narrative that defines our humanity. To reject one side is to deny the other, and therein lies our greatest weakness. Finding strength in our imperfections does not come easily, but it is in this struggle that we discover our resilience. Each flaw is a crack in the armor, a reminder that we are not invincible, nor should we aspire to be. Embrace your scars, they are testament to battles fought and survived. They tell a story of growth, of the fire that tempers us, shaping us into beings of depth and complexity. This is the paradox of our nature, the dark and the light, intertwined like the roots of an ancient tree, both necessary for survival. And what of the duality of our existence? It is a dance, a delicate balance between chaos and order. In the shadows, we find the whispers of our true selves, the unfiltered essence that society often shuns. The darkness is not our enemy, it is a part of us, a necessary companion on our journey. To embrace it is to reclaim our power, to dismantle the fragile constructs that bind us. It is in the acceptance of our flaws that we become unbreakable. But beware, the path is fraught with peril. The temptation to remain in denial is a seductive mistress, luring us back into complacency. It is easy to point fingers, to project our insecurities onto others, and in doing so, we shield ourselves from the painful truths that lie within. Yet, each time we cast judgment, we build a wall that isolates us further from true connection. The irony is palpable. In our desperate attempt for superiority, we construct the very prisons that hold us captive. As we navigate through this darkness, let us not forget that vulnerability is our greatest strength. It is the thread that weaves us together, creating a tapestry of shared experience. When we dare to be vulnerable, we invite others to join us in our struggle, to recognize their own shadows and embrace them. In this shared humanity, we find solace, a reminder that we are not alone in our imperfections. So, step into the darkness. Embrace it, dance with it, and let it forge you anew. The world may shun what it does not understand, but in the depths of your being lies the potential for transformation. Let the shadows guide you toward a greater understanding of yourself and others. For it is only through this journey into the abyss that we can emerge stronger, more authentic, and truly alive. Let the critics tremble. They may never understand the power that lies in embracing the darkness within. In the aftermath of our journeys through shadow and light, we find ourselves at a crossroads, where the echoes of judgment fade into the chilling silence of truth. It is here, in this desolate expanse, that we must confront the ruins of our past actions. The air thickens with the weight of unspoken words, the remnants of a society too eager to tear down rather than build up. We are architects of our own isolation, crafting prisons of judgment that keep us chained to our insecurities. But what if, Instead of wielding our criticisms like weapons, we chose to lay down our arms and build bridges instead. Breaking the cycle of critique begins with a radical shift in perspective. It demands an unflinching gaze into the mirror of our souls to see not just the flaws of others, but our own. Empathy is the hammer that can shatter the walls we've erected, the chisel that carves out space for understanding where none existed. We must learn to listen, to truly listen, without the incessant itch to respond or rebuke. In this silence, we discover the stories that bind us, the shared struggles that reveal our humanity. Imagine a world where acceptance reigns over disdain, where the fear of judgment no longer looms like a specter haunting our every interaction. This is not mere fantasy, it is a possibility that lies within our grasp. To foster genuine connections, we must replace the poison of critique with the nectar of compassion. Each word of kindness, each gesture of understanding, acts as a salve for the wounds we inflict upon one another. In this delicate dance, we find strength not in dominance, but in unity, a recognition that we are all flawed yet striving. Yet, even as we reach for this ideal, let us not forget the legacy we forge in the shadows of our past. The anti-hero knows this truth all too well. Power, once seized through the belittlement of others, is a fleeting mirage. It evaporates with each critical remark, leaving behind the bitter taste of isolation. But in acknowledging our shared frailty, we can transform our legacies from tales of destruction to narratives of resilience. The stories we tell can inspire, can uplift, and can heal. Embracing our humanity means accepting that our existence is not a solitary endeavor. We are woven into a grand tapestry, each thread telling a story of struggle and triumph. The legacy of the anti-hero does not lie in the shadows of past judgments, but in the light of understanding and acceptance. It is a call to arms, no longer against one another, but against the very forces that seek to divide us. We must rise from the ashes of our arrogance, not as solitary figures cloaked in pride, but as a collective force, united by our imperfections. So, as we stand at this precipice, let us take a step forward into the unknown. Let us redefine strength not as the absence of flaws, but as the courage to embrace them. The journey ahead is fraught with challenges, but it is also rich with the potential for transformation. The critics may howl in dismay as we turn away from their judgment, but their voices will fade into whispers as we find our worth in vulnerability. Together, let us carve out a new path, one illuminated by the truths we have discovered in the depths of our being. In this space, we can cultivate genuine relationships rooted in understanding and acceptance. The darkness we once feared will no longer hold us captive. Instead, it will become a source of profound strength, a wellspring from which we draw the courage to connect deeply with one another. And in this embrace of our shared humanity, we will rise, stronger, more authentic, and undeniably alive. The legacy we leave behind will not be of criticism and division, but of connection and compassion. It is time to step forth, to walk this path together, and to embrace the power that arises from our collective journey into the darkness. Share this message if you believe that true strength emerges from the depths of darkness. Reflect on a moment when you faced judgment and transformed it into your own power. Leave your story in the comments below. Subscribe for more thought-provoking insights that challenge the status quo and reveal the resilience that lies within us all. Remember, in the shadows, we find our greatest allies. Let's embrace that darkness together and forge a path toward justice and unity.